This is Estonia. A nation that overthrew an empire with nothing but song, where you can become a citizen without ever stepping foot on its soil, where driving across frozen ocean is legal, but wearing a seatbelt is a crime. This isn't a fairy tale or some dystopian novel, a sliver of land on the Baltic Sea that most people couldn't find on a map. Yet beneath its polished digital facade and Nordic charm lies a reality so strange, so contradictory, and so deeply unsettling that everything you think you know about modern Europe will shatter by the time we're done here. What you're about to discover exists in the shadows between perfection and isolation, between revolution and silence, between the future and a past that refuses to die. The revolution that sang its freedom. Most nations carve their independence through blood and bullets. Estonia did it with harmony. Picture this. It's the late 1980s. The Soviet Union still grips the Baltic region with an iron fist that hasn't loosened in decades. Expressing dissent means disappearing. Speaking your native language too loudly means surveillance. And yet, hundreds of thousands of Estonians gathered in open fields, not to riot, not to fight, but to sing. They sang traditional folk songs that had been banned, melodies that carried the weight of centuries, lyrics that whispered of a freedom most had never known. At the movement's peak, over 300,000 people, nearly 1/4 of the entire population, packed into a space no larger than a few dozen American football fields. 300,000 voices singing for hours, refusing to stop. The sheer audacity of it should have triggered a massacre. History suggested it would, but something extraordinary happened instead. 1 year later, more than 2 million Baltic people joined hands across 3 nations, forming the Baltic Way, a human chain stretching over 370 miles, officially recognized by Guinness World Records as the longest human chain in history. It was a statement written in flesh. We exist. We will not be erased. And in 1991, against all brutal precedent, Estonia regained independence with almost no bloodshed. The world watched in stunned disbelief as a small nation proved that culture could be more powerful than tanks, that unity could dismantle empires, that song could shatter chains. That legacy still pulses through Estonia's traditional song festivals today, a reminder that the quietest revolutions sometimes roar the loudest. The loneliness epidemic nobody mentions. But winning freedom doesn't guarantee you'll know what to do with it. Behind Estonia's reputation as a smart, modern nation lurks something darker. It's one of the loneliest countries in Europe. The percentage of people living alone ranks among the European Union's highest, especially among middle-aged and elderly residents. In many neighborhoods, you can live beside the same people for a decade and exchange fewer words than you would with a cashier in a single American grocery visit. This loneliness doesn't announce itself. It creeps. Long, dark, freezing winters where sunlight appears for mere hours contribute to mental health struggles common across Northern Europe. Estonians are polite, deeply respectful of personal space, but they rarely engage in small talk. In America, you might chat with a stranger in an elevator. In Estonia, silence is considered proper etiquette, a sign of respect rather than rudeness. As technology advances and everything digitizes, real-life connections grow thinner. For tourists, this feels like peaceful solitude, a refreshing break from American chattiness. For long-term residents, it becomes a prison with invisible bars. You can be surrounded by people and still feel utterly alone. A modern paradox where connectivity through screens replaces the warmth of human presence. The more Estonia modernizes, the more it seems to forget that humans need more than efficiency. They need each other. The nightlife industry's hidden exploitation. When night falls, parts of Tallinn transform. Crowded bars pulse with music echoing past midnight, lights reflecting from centuries-old stone streets, creating a distinctly European atmosphere that draws visitors into its embrace. But behind that picturesque scene operates a shadow economy few tourists ever glimpse. In loosely regulated venues, workers endure 10 to 12-hour shifts, survive primarily on tips, and operate under contracts so flexible they essentially don't exist, creating a gray zone beyond meaningful oversight. Women, who significantly outnumber men in Estonia's population, become particularly vulnerable. Many young women, students, temporary workers, enter bars hoping to earn extra income, only to find themselves gradually pulled into exhausting schedules and blurred boundaries that are impossible to define or escape. There are no loud scandals, no major headlines. Everything unfolds quietly, in true Estonian fashion. Problems hidden behind closed doors, suffering that maintains proper silence. What makes this especially troubling is even in a country that has digitized nearly 100% of its government systems, nighttime labor conditions remain largely unmonitored, invisible to the algorithms that track everything else. A truly modern country needs more than good laws written on paper. It must protect its citizens in the places least visible to public scrutiny, the late-night spaces where exploitation wears a smile and calls itself opportunity. The sacred ritual of smoke and soot. But not everything hidden in Estonia is dark. Some secrets are simply ancient. In southern Estonia exists a wellness tradition so unusual, so visceral, that UNESCO recognized it as cultural heritage, the smoke sauna. Forget luxury spas with glass walls and artificial essential oils. This is something completely different, something that predates modern comfort by centuries. These chimneyless structures have walls, ceilings, and benches stained deep black with soot. Wood burns for hours in a massive stone stove, filling the entire room with thick smoke that heats every surface. Once the fire dies, the smoke is released, leaving behind heavy, humid air, the smell of burnt wood, and temperatures that can reach 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The ritual unfolds slowly, deliberately. Water poured on hot stones creates thick steam called loli. Bathers gently strike their skin with birch or juniper branches to stimulate circulation and release natural oils. Then they cool off, sometimes in icy water, sometimes in snow, before returning inside, repeating the cycle several times. Smoke saunas are typically shared by family and friends, often on Saturdays or before major holidays, serving as a way to bond communities and pass traditions to the next generation. For Estonians, this isn't just wellness, it's identity, deeply tied to nature, history, and the national soul in ways that digital innovation will never replicate. Citizenship without borders and its dark consequences. Now here's where Estonia gets truly strange. The country allows anyone in the world to become its digital resident without ever stepping foot in Europe. It's the program called e-Residency, and so far, more than 100,000 people from over 170 countries have joined. Think about that for a moment. A person living in Texas who has never seen Baltic snow can legally open a company in Europe and sign contracts valid across the entire European Union and pay taxes all from a laptop at home. No office, no visa, no physical presence required. Sounds revolutionary, right? But here's what nobody talks about. The system has become a goldmine for international abuse. Shell companies can be created to legitimize money without meaningful background checks. All it takes is scanning an ID and paying a fee. Leaked documents have revealed that thousands of e-residency companies are linked to high-risk individuals operating in the murky spaces between legal and criminal. When a system is designed for convenience, criminals don't need to break it, they simply use it exactly as intended, and the digital trail vanishes into servers that nobody's monitoring closely enough.
Number 10. The Soviet ghosts that still haunt. Modern Estonia ranks among Europe's most digitally advanced countries, a beacon of innovation. But drive just a few miles outside central Tallinn and you'll encounter rows of gray concrete apartment blocks, remnants of the Soviet era that refuse to disappear. They were built quickly, cheaply, uniformly, so identical that to Americans they resembled Cold War-era housing projects where personal identity was systematically erased. Hundreds of thousands of Estonians grew up in apartments measuring only a few hundred square feet where daily life was monitored and silence became the safest survival strategy. Estonia has been independent for over 30 years now, but the memory of control still runs deep. Older residents remain cautious toward authority, hesitant to express personal opinions, slow to trust strangers. Behaviors learned when speaking freely could destroy your life. The contrast is haunting. A nation leading the world in digital government was built on foundations of a society that once feared data and surveillance. Those old buildings still stand, not just as outdated architecture, but as quiet monuments to a past that shaped every Estonian alive today. The Soviet Union may have collapsed, but its shadow stretches long, cold, and impossible to fully escape. Where seatbelts become illegal. In Estonia, there are roads where wearing a seatbelt is actually against the law. Let that sink in for a moment. Wearing a seatbelt, the most basic safety measure in modern driving, is illegal. Here's why. In winter, when the Baltic Sea freezes thick enough, Estonia opens the longest ice road in Europe, allowing cars to drive directly on frozen ocean, connecting the mainland to nearby islands. Some sections stretch more than 15 to 20 miles, wide enough for one-way traffic, complete with road signs, speed limits, and safety inspections. The reasoning is purely practical. If your car breaks through the ice, and cars do break through the ice, escaping within seconds becomes the difference between life and death. A seatbelt, normally your lifeline, becomes your coffin. Speed is strictly limited to around 15 to 25 miles per hour, and the distance between vehicles is carefully controlled to prevent vibrations that could fracture the ice beneath you. It's a fascinating reversal of everything you've been taught about road safety. While not wearing a seatbelt is dangerous in most countries, here, wearing one breaks the law. You're literally driving across the ocean, where one wrong move sends you plunging into water so cold it stops your heart in minutes, and your best chance of survival is being able to escape your vehicle instantly. Welcome to Estonia, where common sense sometimes means breaking every rule you thought was absolute. The day gender flips upside down. In Estonia, there's a holiday that sounds like modern performance art, but actually comes from ancient agricultural tradition. Martavan, jokingly called Women's Second Day, held on the second Monday of October. This custom dates back to agricultural times, when women were temporarily given permission to break the usual social order before long winter arrived. On this day, gender roles reverse in a symbolic and playful way. Women step into public spaces wearing men's clothing, take the lead in community activities, while men willingly step back, becoming lighthearted targets of jokes across villages. According to tradition, women were allowed to symbolically kidnap men, leading them on walks around villages, pulling them into group games, forcing them to join group games. There's nothing offensive or coercive about it. Everything unfolds as joyful social ritual, where laughter replaces authority. It's a remnant from a world that understood something modern society often forgets. Sometimes you need to flip the script completely just for a day to remember that the roles we play aren't carved in stone. They're performed, negotiated, and occasionally worth reversing just to see what happens. The village that conquered the ocean. Tucked along the Baltic coast sits Kasmu, a village so small you can walk across it in under 20 minutes. Yet this tiny settlement once trained hundreds of sea captains for the entire Baltic region. Its nickname is refreshingly direct, the Captain's Village. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, almost every household in Kasmu had someone who went to sea, commanding merchant ships across the North Sea, the Atlantic, even to the Americas. Today, visiting Kasmu feels like stepping into an open-air living museum. Old wooden houses overflow with nautical maps, compasses, and ship models. The village cemetery features gravestones carved with anchors and ship wheels, final resting places marked not by crosses, but by the sea that defined their lives. It's extraordinary that this tiny settlement once played such a crucial role in Europe's maritime network, proof that greatness doesn't require size, it requires skill, tradition, and a willingness to brave waters that would terrify most people. The quiet exodus nobody talks about. Behind Estonia's polished image as a digital success story hides a quiet wave of youth emigration. Many young Estonians choose to leave for jobs in Germany, Finland, or the United Kingdom, where wages are higher and career opportunities broader. For them, Tallinn sometimes feels more like a transit stop than a final destination. The consequences are visible if you look. Society is aging. In many small towns, schools are closing due to lack of students, while nursing homes fill faster than expected. Entertainment options are limited. Life moves slowly. Many shops close early, far from the image of a vibrant digital nation. It's an absence you can feel simply by walking through the streets, a hollowness in communities that once thrived. Worse still, not everyone who leaves wants to go. Many see it as a practical choice, not a betrayal. Estonia remains safe, clean, livable, but for young people, it's sometimes not attractive enough to stay. A country can build the most advanced digital infrastructure in the world, but if its youth keep boarding planes and never coming back, what does that infrastructure ultimately serve? Living next to a giant that never sleeps. On a map of Europe, Estonia looks small and peaceful. On a security map, it's a country living right next to Russia, sharing a border more than 200 miles long, close enough that history never truly feels like the past. For many Estonians, vigilance isn't panic or fear. It's a familiar state of mind that exists alongside everyday life, like checking the weather or locking your door. This reality shapes Estonia's serious investment in cybersecurity, civil defense, and national defense education. Children are taught how to respond in emergency situations. Adults are accustomed to regular drills and preparedness exercises. This constant awareness doesn't make Estonia fearful. It creates a disciplined society, well-prepared, realistic, free of illusions. A small, quiet country that understands exactly where it stands in a world far from quiet. When your neighbor has invaded you before, you don't forget. You prepare, you watch, you stay ready. The sport that defies physics. For many visitors to Estonia, kiking starts as a fun photo opportunity and ends as an experience that makes the heart race far more than expected. Kiking is a sport invented here in the 1990s, and its goal sounds deceptively simple. Swing your body in a full 360-degree rotation around the axis, standing beneath a steel swing more than 20 feet tall, with your feet locked tightly to the pedals. The most frightening moment isn't when you rise into the air, it's when you see the sky flip upside down above your head. Every movement comes from leg strength, breathing, and total concentration. When you finally complete your first full rotation, the moment is often marked by loud laughter, slightly trembling hands, and a very Estonian sense of pride. Not flashy, but unforgettable. It's the perfect metaphor for Estonia itself, appearing simple until you try it, then revealing itself as something that demands everything you have. The wealth gap behind the digital dream. Estonia is one of the fastest growing economies in the Baltic region, but income growth hasn't been equal for everyone. While Tallinn has become a tech hub with apartment prices approaching Western European cities, average wages in rural areas lag noticeably behind. The gap isn't visible in GDP figures, it's in how money is distributed. Those working in technology, startups, and finance benefit enormously from digitalization. Estonia is home to thousands of tech companies serving the EU market, creating a new high-income class. Meanwhile, traditional workers, retirees, and residents outside the capital struggle as living costs rise faster than wages. Rent, electricity, food prices continue climbing, while incomes in many regions remain nearly flat. For Americans, this feels familiar, a fast-growing tech valley while the rest of the country struggles to keep up. The key point is that Estonia isn't poor, it's uneven. A modern nation can operate with a few clicks of a mouse, but closing the wealth gap remains one of its slowest and hardest challenges. Technology should lift everyone up, not widen the divide. Yet, here we are, watching it happen in real time. The pressure of perfection. Because Estonia is often grouped with Nordic countries, clean, disciplined, efficient, it creates quiet pressure to live a perfect life. Society here runs so smoothly that mistakes feel almost unacceptable. From work and school to personal life, everything is expected to be on time, up to standard, done by the book. For many people, especially the young, the pressure doesn't come from loud competition, but from the constant need to appear okay. And along with that comes the expectation that you too must function as efficiently as the system. High productivity, tidy homes, and a private life kept low-key. For Americans, it feels like living in a neighborhood where every lawn is perfectly trimmed. No one says anything, but you understand the unspoken rule.
This pressure isn't shocking or dramatic, but it's persistent, grinding, exhausting in ways that efficiency metrics never capture.
The question remains, are people given enough space to be imperfect, to struggle, to fail, without feeling like they've broken some invisible social contract? The food that defines survival. If you visit Estonia expecting familiar comfort foods, the local cuisine may stop you in your tracks. Estonians take pride in foods that only they eat. Salted herring with sour cream, dense black bread weighing nearly half a pound, wild game like venison and wild boar. For visitors, the experience is striking. Meals look simple, yet extremely heavy, designed to survive long, harsh winters where fresh food became memory. A single slice of Estonian black bread can be as filling as a New York bagel, with flavors so strong you either love them instantly or need time to adjust. What surprises many, modern restaurants in Tallinn are now bringing these ancient dishes into fine dining, turning survival food into stylish experience. Its history tasted through the senses, every bite carrying the weight of winters survived, of people who refused to starve, of a nation that learned to make do with whatever the frozen earth would yield. This is what Estonian cuisine really represents, not delicacy, but determination, not refinement, but resilience. Every heavy, salty, intense bite is a reminder that this nation didn't survive by being delicate. It survived by being tougher than the land that tried to break it. We've just journeyed through 15 realities about Estonia that shatter the polished image of digital perfection. A nation that sang its way to freedom now struggles with loneliness. A country leading in technology still lives in the shadow of Soviet concrete. A place that offers digital citizenship to the world can't keep its own youth from leaving. Estonia isn't what you think it is. It's stranger, darker, more contradictory, and far more fascinating than any guidebook will ever admit. This is a country caught between past and future, between isolation and connection, between the songs that freed it and the silence that now defines it. The question isn't whether Estonia is a success story, it's whether we're brave enough to see that success and failure aren't opposites, they're neighbors, living side by side in a small Baltic nation that changed history by refusing to stay quiet.